Every dive begins with a question that experienced divers never stop asking. What lies beneath the surface today? The answer changes everything. From the way you position your body to the way you breathe, the terrain below your fins shapes every single decision you make underwater. Diving is not a one-size-fits-all activity, and the sooner a diver understands that the environment dictates technique, the safer and more rewarding every descent becomes. Underwater terrain is as varied as any landscape found on land. There are towering walls that drop thousands of feet into darkness, vast sandy plains that stretch endlessly in every direction, dense coral gardens bursting with life, rocky reefs with sharp edges and hidden crevices, kelp forests that sway like underwater cathedrals, and river-like underwater caves that twist and turn without mercy. Each of these environments demands a different physical approach, a different mental framework, and a different set of skills. Understanding how terrain influences technique is not just about becoming a better diver. It is about becoming a safer one. The relationship between terrain and technique is deeply practical. A diver who masters buoyancy control on a sandy flat may find themselves completely disoriented when they encounter a vertical wall for the first time. A cave diver who is trained to navigate tight passages would approach an open ocean dive with an entirely different mindset. This is why dive training programs around the world emphasize environment-specific skills, because the underwater world does not reward assumptions. It rewards preparation, awareness, and adaptability. Sandy and silty bottoms are among the most common underwater terrains a recreational diver will encounter, and they are also among the most deceptively challenging. At first glance, a sandy seafloor seems forgiving. There are no sharp corals to avoid, no tight spaces to navigate, and the visibility is often clear. But the moment a diver loses buoyancy control and sinks even slightly too low, a single fin kick can send a massive cloud of silt billowing upward, reducing visibility to near zero within seconds. This phenomenon, known as a silt out, can be disorienting and even dangerous, particularly in enclosed environments. On sandy terrain, the primary technique that every diver must master is neutral buoyancy. This means achieving a state where the diver neither sinks nor rises without deliberate effort, hovering effortlessly in the water column. Achieving this requires precise weighting, controlled breathing, and a horizontal body position that keeps fins elevated above the seafloor. The fin kick technique also matters enormously here. The traditional flutter kick, while effective in open water, can be destructive near the bottom. Instead, divers are encouraged to use the frog kick, which propels the diver forward with a horizontal motion that keeps the fins parallel to the seafloor and minimizes water disturbance below. The modified flutter kick and the helicopter turn are also valuable tools for maneuvering over sandy terrain without causing damage or losing visibility. Beyond technique, sandy environments also teach divers patience and observation. Because the bottom is relatively featureless, navigation requires careful attention to compass headings, natural reference points, and dive planning. Divers must also be aware that many marine creatures, such as stingrays, flatfish, and various crustaceans, camouflage themselves perfectly against sandy substrates, making situational awareness a critical skill in these environments. Coral reefs are perhaps the most iconic of all underwater environments, and they are also among the most demanding in terms of diver discipline. A coral reef is a living structure, built over hundreds and sometimes thousands of years by tiny organisms called polyps. A single careless brush of a fin, or an accidental hand placement, can destroy decades of growth in an instant. This reality places an enormous responsibility on every diver who enters a reef environment. Technique on a coral reef is defined by precision and restraint. Buoyancy control, already important on sandy terrain, becomes absolutely critical here. Divers must maintain a consistent hover at a safe distance from the reef structure at all times, which typically means staying at least 1 meter away from any coral surface. This requires not only excellent buoyancy skills, but also strong spatial awareness, because coral formations can appear suddenly from multiple directions, above, below, and to the sides. Body positioning on a reef dive is typically more upright or slightly head down compared to open water diving, allowing the diver to observe the reef closely while maintaining safe distance. Fin technique is again a central concern. The back kick, a technique where the diver moves backward by reversing the direction of the fin stroke, becomes invaluable when navigating tight coral passages. It allows the diver to retreat from a narrow space without turning around and risking contact with the surrounding reef. Trim, which refers to the horizontal alignment of the diver's body, must be carefully managed to ensure that no equipment, such as dangling gauges or loose hoses, makes contact with coral structures. Reef diving also introduces the challenge of current management. Many coral reefs are located in areas with significant water movement, and divers must learn to use the reef itself as a windbreak, positioning themselves on the sheltered side of coral structures to rest and conserve energy. Drift diving along a reef requires the diver to maintain a relaxed, streamlined posture, allowing the current to carry them while making small adjustments to stay at the desired depth and distance from the reef. Underwater walls and shipwrecks represent two of the most dramatic and psychologically complex environments a diver can explore. A wall dive involves descending along a near-vertical or completely vertical underwater cliff face, which can drop hundreds or even thousands of feet into the deep ocean. The visual experience is breathtaking, but it also creates a unique set of challenges that go beyond physical technique. The most significant psychological challenge of wall diving is depth awareness. Without a visible bottom to reference, divers can lose track of their depth rapidly, particularly when they become absorbed in the visual spectacle of the wall. This phenomenon, sometimes called the blue water effect, can lead to unintentional deep dives that push beyond safe recreational limits. Divers must develop a habit of checking their depth gauge or dive computer frequently and maintaining a predetermined maximum depth throughout the dive. Buoyancy on a wall requires a different kind of management than on flat terrain. Because the diver is oriented parallel to the wall rather than above the seafloor, the reference points for depth control shift entirely. Divers must rely more heavily on their breathing rhythm to control ascent and descent, using slow, deep breaths to rise slightly and controlled exhalations to descend. Wreck diving introduces an entirely different set of technical demands. A shipwreck is an artificial structure with corridors, compartments, and overhead environments that can trap an unprepared diver. Penetration diving, which involves entering the interior of a wreck, requires specialized training that covers navigation using guidelines, redundant lighting systems, and gas management protocols that account for the possibility of a blocked exit. Even for divers who choose to explore only the exterior of a wreck, the irregular surfaces, sharp metal edges, and unpredictable currents that form around large structures demand heightened situational awareness and conservative buoyancy technique. Cave diving and kelp forest diving sit at opposite ends of the aesthetic spectrum, yet both demand a level of controlled movement that separates trained specialists from recreational divers. Cave diving is widely regarded as one of the most technically demanding forms of diving in the world. The absence of natural light, the presence of an overhead environment that prevents direct ascent to the surface, and the complex three-dimensional navigation required inside cave systems all combine to create an environment where even small errors can have fatal consequences. The foundational rule of cave diving is the rule of thirds, which dictates that 1/3 of the available gas supply is used for the penetration, 1/3 is reserved for the exit, and 1/3 is kept as an emergency reserve. Movement inside a cave must be slow, deliberate, and perfectly controlled. The modified flutter kick and the frog kick are preferred because they generate minimal disturbance to the fine silt that often covers cave floors. A silt out inside a cave, with no natural light and no direct path to the surface, is an extremely serious situation that proper technique is specifically designed to prevent. Kelp forests, by contrast, are open environments filled with natural light and abundant marine life, but they present their own unique movement challenges. Towering columns of giant kelp can reach heights of 30 meters or more, creating a dense vertical maze that divers must navigate carefully. Entanglement is the primary hazard, and divers in kelp environments must streamline all equipment tightly against the body, avoid sudden movements, and learn to slowly and calmly unwind kelp that wraps around fins or gear, rather than panicking and making the situation worse. The slow, deliberate movement style required in kelp forests shares a philosophical connection with cave diving technique. Both environments reward calm, measured action, and punish reactive, hasty responses. Across every underwater terrain, from the open sandy plains to the darkest cave passages, the common thread is this: the environment teaches the diver. Each new terrain encountered is an invitation to refine technique, deepen awareness, and develop a more respectful relationship with the underwater world. The diver who embraces this continuous learning process does not just survive different environments, they thrive in them.